Beyond the Mic with Sean Dillon.
We're joined on the star line by bassist, singer, founding member of the Goo Goo Dolls. We welcome Robby Takac.
Hey.
Robby, let's go beyond the mic. How did the pandemic change the way that you look at music?
Man, our entire adult life, meaning, from age 20, John and I have been playing rock shows consistently. Like, it pretty much never stopped, We'd be making records or playing shows. And when the pandemic happened and our tour got canceled twice, that rhythm of our life kind of was interrupted. And I think to me, that was the most mind-blowing thing. In regards to, missing the music, was just how the rhythm of my life was so ingrained in sharing those moments with people and stuff. So I think we came back, and it was a little weird at first. You'd fly, through completely masked airports, onto masked airplanes, into masked vehicles, and then go play a show with 3,000 unmasked people that were shoulder to shoulder. Really weird, but I think there was a comfort level that was sort of found, and we had a great summer. I think people had an amazing time, and now, we're spinning into the fall here, and we seem to be trending in that same direction. So it feels good.
4 decades of sharing your music. It's your first tour in 3 years. How does getting back to those arenas and normalcy help you?
Yeah, I guess, it's multifold for us. Obviously our way of life was kind of threatened. John and I, this is what we've been doing for our whole life. So, something in the back of your mind says, wow, we may never, we may never play again. Who knows? And maybe there's no more crowds, but I feel like, that relationship that you have with your audience, as I mentioned earlier, becomes kind of part of your psyche. And, even just, the interaction, with the people within the band, and such, I think I just really miss the rhythm of it.
Now, there are so many songs in your library, so many songs you can pick from. Talk about the difficulty in putting together a set list that makes the old school fans and the new school fans both happy.
Dude, it is a nightmare. I'm telling you. Oh my God. No joke. It's the full range of emotions, laughter, nearly coming to blows. It's tough, man. It's been tough for 15 years. And we just keep adding new songs, and it makes it even tougher. But I guess the thing is that, it distilled down to, a great rock show. And I guess that's what you're trying to do. So I can think of worse problems to have than having too many songs to play.
The rock and roll lifestyle, it just isn't for everyone. How do you look back on your past, and how would you change it if you could?
Well, I probably would have paced myself a little bit more than I did when I was a kid. We cannonballed into the pool pretty hard, and we lived pretty hard for a long time. And, I had that eventual awakening that the majority of musicians that are lucky enough to go on in their careers, have. At one point you realize, wow, I'm not 22 years old and I can't, party like it's my last day on earth every night, but I guess that's part of sort of growing up over, all these decades with the band. You just sort of have to move on and understand where you are and understand what you're doing, and I try to live your best life within that.
But what makes it such a different record in your mind?
Well, this was a different record for us. For the past 15 years, we had a tendency to burn out producers. We would bring them in, and John is very, very meticulous about doing things and about his process and all this kind of stuff. And so a lot of producers, they can only spend so much time, making a record, and they got to move on to the next thing. And so, there were records where we had used, 3, 4, 5 producers on a record because, it just took that long, and it took that many people to get it finished. The difference with this one was we were in a full-blown pandemic, man. So you couldn't be around anybody. There wasn't even a vaccine at that point. So, it was just us sort of sitting in a old church that we rented that was converted to a recording studio up in Woodstock, New York, middle of the woods. And we didn't see anybody. We just went in there and made a record. And so it was a very different record for us compared to the last, 4 albums that we've released. And so I don't think it would have happened that way if it weren't for the pandemic. So I think, it's a direct result, of that whole thing that we lived through for sure.
Robby Takac from the Goo Goo Dolls joins us beyond the mic. And Robby, it's time for the Rocky Nate. 8 random questions. Answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. There is no pressure.
All right.
Where's your favorite place to play?
Oh, Buffalo.
How has your wife, Miyoko, helped you all these years?
By dealing with my crazy schedules and lifestyle.
Do you sleep on your stomach, your side, or your back?
Yes.
You just roll around.
Yeah, you got it. I'm like roll around. I'm like the Tasmanian devil at night.
What's your favorite rock album of all time, but it can't be one of yours?
Maybe A Wizard, a True Star by Todd Rundgren.
Oh, I approve that 100%.
Yeah, I love it.
What was your first bass guitar, and do you still have it?
I do not. It was an Epiphone hollow body, and I bought one recently because I was so in love with that guitar, and I definitely built it up in my memory. but it was nice to play it again. But yeah, I had an Epiphone hollow body, and the first solid body bass I had was an Electra. It was called an Electra bass, kind of a P bass copy.
Do you go with the flow or against the grain of life?
I generally like to go with the flow, but our flow is generally going against the grain. I don't know if that makes any sense.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
What's the thing you love doing with your daughter?
Oh, God. Going to the drive-in movies.
So what's your favorite father-daughter movie?
We started going during the pandemic because the theaters were closed, and so a couple of the local drive-in theaters near Buffalo, outside of Buffalo but near Buffalo, started running like E.T. and Ghostbusters and all that kind of stuff. So we started off watching that kind of stuff. Now I'll watch whatever she wants to go see, just because she's going to be 11 now, and I don't know how much longer this is going to last. So I just love being with her. So, I'll go do whatever she wants to do.
Robby, who's the first celebrity you met that made you lose your mind?
Alice Cooper.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, that was actually the first big celebrity I ever met, but I met him. I knew a girl I was seeing at the time was best friends with her assistant, who was with Alice's assistant, who was from Buffalo. Mm-hmm. And so we went to see him, and it was probably 1986, probably. And we went and saw him up in his hotel suite and had dinner and watched Star Wars. I remember on a VCR that he had in his room. And I just remember sitting there. I'm like, I grew up with Alice Cooper, and I just remember sitting there and having that weird feeling of like, wow, this guy's just like sort of a normal dude, like normal guy having normal conversations. And I just watched him, getting his head chopped off, an hour ago. and yeah, man, it was just a really surreal day for me, and our band was just kind of getting back together. It was just kind of getting together back then. And yeah, it was a great time.
If you're enjoying these conversations, please check out another Beyond the Mic episode to find more actors, artists, and people you need to know. We'd also appreciate a like and subscribe on the Good Pods app. It's time for the back half with Robby Takac from the Goo Goo Dolls Beyond the Mic. Robby, how has your relationship with John change and evolve all these years?
Well, it's like any relationship, there's moments where you're working on the relationship when you should maybe be working on other stuff. But I think it's as important as working on the other stuff to make sure that the relationships work. And I don't know, John and I know each other pretty well. And so I think, we are pretty aware of kind of what has to happen, within our organization to make things work, so yeah. And so, it's, sometimes it's a bitter pill, but like we know kind of what needs to happen sometimes. And, so I think you need to be willing to make those sacrifices. And I think that as we grow up as people, we get families, there were certainly no families involved in this when we started out. Our perspectives and stuff change a little bit. And, that pace has to sort of keep up. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like,
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that pace has to keep up. Like we have to sort of keep up with each other and sort of understand where each other are at to sort of understand how things are moving forward. So I find it amazing that we're still here and able to do this, but, I can't imagine it any other way. So, it's,
yep.
Yeah.
Robby, where's your favorite place at home just to think?
I have a little studio up in my house, which is just a spare bedroom, which has got a little bit of gear in it. And, I can close the door and, I just sort of shut everything out. And so that's where I do interviews and I do writing up there. And, yeah, so that's probably my quiet space at the moment.
Robby, you want to give back and create opportunities with your Music is Art project. Now, why was creating this so important for you, and who was one person that was touched by this project?
Yeah, I mean, Music is Art just sort of happened, we threw a show at my studio during an event that was happening in Buffalo, and it sort of blossomed into programming and all sorts of stuff. And, I started it, but I have to say, I don't sit there. I started it. I was, integral in starting it, but I don't tend to it every day. There's a handful of people who tend to it every day. It's important because we're able to do it. That's why it's important. So we should be doing it. And, it's important for people to remember, that everybody is not an intellectual. Everybody's not a scholar. Everybody's not an athlete. Some people have a creative streak in them. And if you can figure out the way to aim that creative streak, they'll become unbelievably happy people. And so that's why I think it's important.
You run your own music label, Good Caramel Music. Now, what makes you go, wow, people need to hear this band? I mean, what are you looking for in a band?
Yeah, when I started the label, 20 some years ago, I was looking, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to find a band where people would go, wow. But I kind of got out of that, and I was almost going to shut the label down probably about 10 years ago. And I was approached by a band called Shonen Knife from Japan to perhaps release a record from them in the States. And they had been around for about 20, 25 years at that point. I had been a big fan. So I decided to release the record for them. And now I think we've released probably 8, 9, 10 records by them by this point. A slew of other Japanese acts as well, because I just sort of fell into that
niche.
Yeah, my wife is from Tokyo, so we were able to communicate and help some of those bands come over and tour over here and release records over here and record over here. So the label sort of really aimed itself, in that direction for a little while. And we were sort of a little dormant through the pandemic, but it looks like we might have a new Sean Dillon record coming out soon. So
nice.
Yeah.
There's always great stories from the road. What's one where if you didn't tell it, it might be lost?
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, here's a good one. One time we were doing one of those radio shows. I forget where it was. I think it was somewhere in Florida. There were a few acts on the bill. I think Elvis's daughter was on the bill.
Very cool.
I can't remember the other bands, but MC Hammer was on the bill as well. And we were closing the show. So MC Hammer played prior to us. And we were up on the stage playing. And there was a point in the show where I would play, because Rick James is from Buffalo, right? And we're from Buffalo. So there was a point in the show where I would play the riff from Super Freak, right?
Right.
And and so I played the riff, and dude, within 4 seconds of me playing the riff, Hammer comes flying out on the stage in his airplane pants, right? His parachute pants, and his dancers come out. Now, mind you, we don't know the song, right? So he's like, going across the stage, and John and I are looking around going, what the hell is going on here? And so it turned into an MC Hammer concert for a few minutes. And unfortunately, that was prior to everyone having a camera phone, because I'm sure that we would have gotten a lot of mileage out of that one. But anyway, that was a great moment.
Robby, how's the Goo Goo Dolls changed you?
It's made me what I am today, man. I basically, jumped from, I was in college, I was doing this, and, I got an AARP card now, so, anything that happens in my life, has happened because of this, everything.
It's time for one big question with Robby Takac from the Goo Goo Dolls Beyond the Mic. Robby, why does music feed your soul?
How does music feed my soul?
Well, let me put it to you another way. You have a studio in your house. You have a choice to walk past it or go inside and create. Why do you go inside and why do you create?
Well, I just love the idea of being involved in a process where people are being creative. So my day spent, I write songs, I work on songs, I produce songs, I help people produce songs, but I also, like you mentioned, the Music is Art organization, it's helping to spread the idea that music is important, to the youth and such. I have a recording studio in town, I have a little record label. Like, all those things are things that have fed into what I love to do every day. It's like why I love to wake up every day, so for me, I try to have most of the things I do in my life be somehow attached, to music, and if not music, some form of creativity, and I just think it gives you just a more whole and, a more complete life.
He loves going to the drive-in with his daughter, watch Star Wars with Alice Cooper, and loves to go with the flow against the grain. Robby Takac from the Goo Goo Dolls.
Wow. I would like that to be, I would love for that to be my Wikipedia entry.
Somebody get on that right now. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us today.
Absolutely, my friend. We'll see you at the show.
And that, my friends, is Beyond the Mic.